In the distant reaches of the galaxy, where stars burned like ancient lanterns and planets spun in silent orbits, there existed a peculiar human warrior named Eric Thorne. He wasn't your typical soldier, no grand titles or medals adorned his name, but he carried an air about him that made people take notice. With rugged features etched from years of hardship and eyes as sharp as twin blades, Eric had earned his place among the stars through sheer grit and determination. Eric's journey began on Earth, though it felt more like a lifetime ago than just 2 decades. Born into chaos during humanity's darkest hour, a time when alien invasions were no longer science fiction but grim reality, he learned early how to survive. His parents were farmers who perished defending their land against marauding extraterrestrial scavengers. Left alone at 16, Eric joined what remained of Earth's fractured military forces, driven by vengeance and hope for something better. The universe, however, is vast and unforgiving. Over time, Eric found himself far from home, stationed aboard the starship Elysium Dawn, tasked with missions ranging from diplomatic escorts to skirmishes with hostile species. The ship became both prison and sanctuary, its corridors echoing with tales of battles fought and lives lost. Yet despite the camaraderie forged among his crewmates, Eric often felt a gnawing emptiness inside, a yearning for connection, purpose, or perhaps redemption. It was on one such mission that destiny intervened, weaving threads neither Eric nor anyone else could have anticipated. The Elysium Dawn received orders to investigate strange energy readings emanating from a remote sector of space known only as Sector 42 Gamma. Rumors whispered of ancient ruins hidden within asteroid fields, remnants of civilizations long forgotten by history. As they approached the coordinates, the ship shuddered violently, caught in a gravitational anomaly that defied all logic. When the dust settled, if one could call the swirling cosmic debris dust, Eric stood on the surface of a desolate moon alongside his squad. Their objective: locate the source of the anomaly and neutralize any potential threats. What awaited them, however, was anything but ordinary. As they trekked across jagged terrain under skies painted orange by twin suns, Eric couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every shadow seemed alive, every gust of wind carried whispers too faint to decipher. Then came the moment that would alter everything. Emerging from behind a cluster of crystalline spires stepped a figure unlike anything Eric had ever seen. She was tall, her skin shimmering like liquid silver under the sunlight, her hair flowing like molten gold. Her presence radiated authority yet vulnerability, strength yet sorrow. Before anyone could react, she strode forward without hesitation, her gaze locking onto Eric. In an instant, she closed the distance between them, wrapping her arms around him in an embrace so unexpected it left the entire squad stunned. Her voice, soft yet commanding, broke the silence. "I've finally found you, human." Those words hung heavy in the air, carrying weight beyond comprehension. Who was this alien princess? Why did she seek out Eric specifically? And most importantly, what role did he play in whatever grand design unfolded before them? Unbeknownst to Eric, this encounter marked not just the beginning of a new chapter but the unraveling of secrets buried deep within the fabric of existence itself. Little did he know, the answers lay hidden not only in the stars above but also within the depths of his own soul. The alien princess loosened her grip slightly, though her hand still rested firmly on Eric's shoulders. Her luminous eyes searched his face as if trying to memorize every detail. For a moment, Eric forgot how to breathe. This close, he could see the intricate patterns etched into her skin, swirling designs that pulsed faintly with light, almost like constellations mapped across her body. She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made his heart race. "I am Lysara," she said finally, her voice melodic yet tinged with urgency. "Daughter of House Valyria and heir to the throne of Zitharis." Her words sent a ripple of unease through Eric's squad. Zitharis was a name whispered in myth, a planet believed to be nothing more than legend, a lost civilization rumored to possess technology so advanced it bordered on sorcery. If what she claimed was true, then this encounter was far bigger than any of them had imagined. But before anyone could respond, one of Eric's comrades, a grizzled veteran named Doran, stepped forward, his blaster raised cautiously. "Hold on now," he growled, eyeing Lysara warily. "What do you mean you've found him? And why'd you go hugging our guy like he's some long-lost relative?" Lysara turned her gaze toward Doran, unbothered by the weapon pointed at her. Instead, she smiled faintly, revealing teeth that gleamed like polished pearl. "You misunderstand. she said calmly. This isn't about ownership or conquest. It's about destiny. Turning back to Eric, she added, You carry something within you, a fragment of my world's legacy. A piece we've been searching for across galaxies. Eric blinked, confusion clouding his thoughts. Wait, what are you talking about? I'm just a soldier. Nothing special. Special? Lysara laughed softly, though there was no mockery in her tone. You humans always underestimate yourselves. Your kind has walked among the stars for less than 2 centuries, yet you've already reshaped the cosmos in ways even the oldest races can scarcely comprehend. But enough talk for now. Her expression grew serious, and she gestured toward the crystalline spires behind her. Come with me. There is much to show you, and little time to waste. Doran frowned deeply, glancing at Eric. Sir, we don't know if we can trust her. For all we know, this could be some elaborate trap. She's right about one thing, Eric replied quietly, his mind racing. We need answers. Besides, he hesitated, looking at Lysara again. There was something about her demeanor, an earnestness that felt genuine. If she wanted us dead, she could have done it already. Reluctantly, the squad followed as Lysara led them deeper into the labyrinth of glowing spires. The structures hummed faintly underfoot, resonating with energy that prickled their skin. Eric couldn't help but marvel at the alien architecture. It was as though the very fabric of reality bent around these monoliths, creating impossible angles and shimmering reflections. As they walked, Lysara spoke, her voice carrying a blend of reverence and sorrow. Long ago, my people discovered the essence of creation itself, the primordial force that binds matter, energy, and life together. We called it the Etherian. It allowed us to build wonders beyond imagination. But power corrupts, even when wielded with good intentions. Wars broke out over control of the Etherian, tearing our empire apart. In the end, the core of its power shattered, scattering fragments across the universe. She paused, turning to face Eric directly. One such fragment resides within you, human. How it came to be there is a mystery I intend to solve. But first, we must retrieve it, for it holds the key to restoring balance to my world. The revelation hit Eric like a freight train. Him? Carrying part of some ancient cosmic artifact? It sounded absurd, borderline insane. Yet deep down, he couldn't deny the strange pull he'd felt ever since stepping foot on this moon. Something here resonated with him on a level he couldn't explain. So let me get this straight, muttered Doran, scratching his head. Some alien MacGuffin got lodged inside our buddy Eric, and now you're saying he's basically walking around with half your planet's magic powers? That's convenient. It's not convenience, Lysara countered sharply. It's fate. The Etherian chooses its bearers carefully. Trust me, I didn't expect it to lead me here, to you. But now that I've found you, we cannot delay. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden tremor beneath their feet. The ground cracked open, revealing veins of pulsating blue light that spread rapidly outward. From the fissures emerged creatures unlike anything the humans had ever seen, amorphous beings composed entirely of shifting energy, their forms flickering like static electricity. They moved with unnatural speed, encircling the group with predatory intent. Guardians! Lysara shouted, unsheathing a blade that materialized seemingly out of thin air. Its blade shimmered with the same ethereal glow as her skin. They've sensed the fragment's presence. Without hesitation, the squad sprang into action. Blasters fired, lighting up the dim landscape with bursts of crimson and green. Doran barked orders, directing the team to form a defensive perimeter while Eric instinctively positioned himself closer to Lysara. Despite his skepticism, he found himself unwilling to leave her side. The battle raged fiercely, the Guardians proving relentless adversaries. Each time one dissipated under concentrated fire, another took its place, emerging from the glowing cracks like vengeful spirits. Amidst the chaos, Lysara fought with grace and precision, her movements fluid and calculated. She slashed through the creatures with ease, her blade slicing through their ephemeral forms like a hot knife through butter. At one point, Eric narrowly avoided being tackled by one of the Guardians, diving to the side just in time. As he scrambled to his feet, he noticed something peculiar, The creature hesitated, its shape wavering as if confused. For a brief moment, it seemed to lock eyes with him, or rather, focus on something inside him. Then, with a violent burst of energy, it disintegrated into nothingness. "What the hell was that?" he muttered, staring at his hands. "You see," Lysara called out, dispatching another guardian with a swift strike. "The fragment responds to your will. You must learn to harness it if we are to survive." Survival, however, was becoming increasingly uncertain. More guardians poured forth, overwhelming the group's defenses. Just as it seemed they might be overrun, Lysara raised her free hand, palm facing skyward. A brilliant surge of light erupted from her fingertips, engulfing the battlefield in a blinding flash. When the glare faded, the guardians were gone, leaving behind only scorched earth and eerie silence. Panting heavily, the squad regrouped, their weapons lowered but still at the ready. Eric glanced at Lysara, who looked equally exhausted yet resolute. Whatever power she wielded, it came at a cost. "We need to move," she said firmly, wiping sweat, or perhaps something else, from her brow. "That attack won't hold them off forever." With renewed determination, the group pressed onward, following Lysara deeper into the crystalline maze. None of them knew what awaited them at the end of this journey, but one thing was certain: Eric Thorne's life would never be the same again. Deeper into the crystalline labyrinth, the air thickened with an otherworldly tension. The walls seemed to pulse rhythmically, as though alive, casting eerie shadows that danced along the floor. Eric couldn't shake the sensation that they weren't merely walking through a structure but traversing the veins of some colossal, sleeping beast. Every step echoed unnaturally, reverberating through the halls like whispers of ancient secrets eager to be uncovered. Lysara led them with an assuredness that belied the gravity of their situation. Her strides were purposeful, each movement a testament to her royal upbringing and the weight of her mission. Occasionally, she would pause, pressing her hand against a wall, closing her eyes as if communing with the very essence of the place. These moments were brief but telling. They revealed a connection to this alien world that went beyond mere familiarity. Eric found himself drawn to her in a way he struggled to understand. It wasn't just her beauty or her regal bearing, it was something deeper, an inexplicable resonance that tugged at his soul. He felt it most acutely whenever she glanced back at him. Her eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and something akin to recognition. It was as if she saw not just the man standing before her but the sum of all his choices, his struggles, and his dreams. As they ventured further, the environment shifted subtly. The once clear pathways began to twist and spiral, forming complex patterns that defied logic. Colors danced across the surfaces of the crystals, shifting from deep blues to fiery oranges, painting the group in hues that changed with each passing second. The effect was mesmerizing, almost hypnotic, and Eric had to fight the urge to simply stand and stare. "This place, it's beautiful," murmured one of the squad members, a young woman named Kira. Her voice was barely above a whisper, tinged with awe. "It is," Lysara agreed, her tone softer now, almost reverent. "These spires are remnants of the Great Convergence, a time when the Etherean's power reached its zenith. My ancestors built this sanctuary to house its fragments, hoping to protect them from those who sought to misuse them." "And one of these fragments is inside me?" Eric asked, breaking the spell momentarily. The idea still felt surreal, like a plot from one of those old sci-fi vids he used to watch as a kid. "Yes," Lysara replied, turning to face him fully. "But it is not merely inside you, it is a part of you. How or why, I cannot say. Perhaps the Etherean recognized something in you, a spark of potential that aligned with its purpose." Eric chuckled nervously, running a hand through his hair. "Potential? Lady, I'm just a grunt trying to make it through the day without getting shot. If this thing thinks I'm special, it's got the wrong guy." Lysara's lips curved into a faint smile, though her eyes remained solemn. "Do not underestimate yourself, Eric Thorne. Humility is a virtue, but false modesty serves no one. You will need to embrace whatever lies ahead if we are to succeed." Their progress slowed as the path narrowed, forcing them to walk single file. The atmosphere grew heavier, charged with an electric tension that made the hairs on Eric's neck stand on end. He exchanged glances with Doran, who shrugged in response, his usual gruff demeanor replaced by cautious alertness. Suddenly, Lysara stopped, raising a hand to signal the group to halt. Ahead, the corridor opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. At its center stood a pedestal, atop which rested a glowing orb that pulsed with rhythmic light. The air around it shimmered, distorting the view like heat waves rising from desert sands. "The core fragment," Lysara breathed, her voice barely audible. She took a hesitant step forward, her gaze fixed on the orb. Before anyone could react, the ground beneath them trembled violently. From the shadows emerged figures clad in dark armor, their faces obscured by visors that reflected no light. They moved with mechanical precision, surrounding the group in a matter of seconds. "Who are you?" Lysara demanded, her voice steady despite the obvious threat. One of the figures stepped forward, removing their helmet to reveal a face that bore traces of Zytherian heritage, but twisted, corrupted. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural red light, and their voice carried a cold metallic edge. "Princess Lysara," they sneered. "We've been expecting you." Eric tightened his grip on his weapon, his instincts screaming danger. Beside him, Doran muttered under his breath. "Great. Just what we needed. More aliens with an attitude problem." The leader of the armored figures ignored the comment, focusing instead on Lysara. "You think you can reclaim the fragment? Foolish girl. The Etherian belongs to those strong enough to wield it, not to weaklings clinging to outdated ideals." Lysara's expression hardened. "You betray your own kind for power? You sicken me." The figure laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Power is survival. Ideals are luxuries afforded only to the naive. Now step aside, or join your precious relics in oblivion." Tension crackled in the air as both sides prepared for conflict. Eric glanced at Lysara, seeing the resolve etched into her features. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for certain: retreating wasn't an option. The standoff escalated swiftly as the armored figures drew weapons that hummed with ominous energy. Lysara wasted no time, summoning another burst of radiant power that illuminated the chamber like a miniature sun. The brightness forced the attackers to shield their eyes momentarily, giving the group a crucial advantage. "Move!" Doran barked, snapping everyone into action. The squad dispersed, finding cover behind jagged formations of crystal scattered throughout the chamber. Eric ducked behind a particularly large shard, his heart pounding as bolts of searing energy whizzed past him, leaving scorch marks on the pristine surfaces. From his vantage point, Eric could see Lysara moving with breathtaking agility, dodging attacks while retaliating with precise strikes from her shimmering blade. Each swing cleaved through the air with a sound akin to thunder, sending shockwaves that destabilized her opponents. Yet for every foe she dispatched, another seemed to emerge from the shadows, relentless and unyielding. Beside him, Kira leaned out from her position, firing rapid bursts from her plasma rifle. Her shot struck true, felling two armored figures with clean precision. "Reload!" she called out, ducking back just as return fire splintered the crystal near her head. Fragments rained down, glittering ominously in the chaotic light show. Eric gritted his teeth, realizing they couldn't keep this up indefinitely. The enemy outnumbered them, and fatigue was already setting in. He glanced toward the pedestal where the core fragment hovered tantalizingly close yet impossibly far. If they were going to win, they needed to reach it, and fast. "Cover me!" he shouted, gripping his weapon tightly. Before anyone could protest, he bolted from his hiding spot, zigzagging erratically to avoid incoming fire. Energy blasts sizzled dangerously close, singeing the edges of his jacket, but he pressed on, fueled by adrenaline and sheer determination. Reaching the pedestal, Eric hesitated, unsure what to do next. The orb pulsed steadily, its light casting strange patterns on his skin. He extended a hand tentatively, feeling a strange warmth radiating from it. As his fingers brushed its surface, a jolt surged through him, coursing through his veins like liquid fire. Images flooded his mind, visions of stars collapsing, worlds birthing, and civilizations rising and falling, all interconnected by threads of golden light. "Eric!" Lysara's voice cut through the haze, snapping him back to reality. She was fighting desperately nearby, holding off multiple attackers simultaneously. Blood trickled from a gash on her forehead, but her focus never wavered. Summoning courage he didn't know he possessed, Eric clasped the orb firmly. Instantly, the chamber erupted in a symphony of light and sound. The core fragment flared brilliantly, releasing waves of energy that rippled outward, engulfing everything in their path. The armored figures screamed, their forms dissolving into nothingness as the raw power overwhelmed them. For a fleeting moment, Eric felt infinite, connected to every atom in the universe. Then, as quickly as it began, the surge subsided, leaving behind an eerie calm. Gasping for breath, he staggered backward, clutching the orb tightly to his chest. Lysara rushed to his side, concern etched across her face. "Are you all right?" she asked, placing a hand on his shoulder. He nodded, though his legs threatened to give way. "Yeah, I think so. What just happened?" "You activated the fragment," she explained, her voice tinged with wonder. "Its power resonates with you, amplifying your innate abilities. But using it comes at a cost. You'll need to learn control, or risk losing yourself to its influence." Before either of them could process further, the ground quaked violently once more. Cracks spiderwebbed across the chamber floor, spreading rapidly toward the pedestal. Above, the ceiling groaned ominously, chunks of crystal raining down as the structure began to collapse. "We need to leave. Now," Doran yelled, ushering the remaining squad members toward the exit. Clutching the orb, Eric followed Lysara as they sprinted through the crumbling chamber. Behind them, the pedestal shattered into countless shards, releasing a final burst of energy that propelled them forward. They barely made it outside before the entire spire imploded, sending a shockwave that knocked them off their feet. As dust settled and silence returned, Eric lay sprawled on the ground, staring up at the twin suns overhead. Despite the exhaustion weighing heavily on him, a sense of triumph bloomed within his chest. They had survived, at least for now. Yet as he looked at Lysara, who sat beside him catching her breath, he knew this was only the beginning. The fragment's activation had awakened something greater, something neither of them fully understood. And somewhere out there, forces far darker than the ones they'd faced today lurked, waiting for their chance to strike. Little did Eric realize, however, that the true challenge lay not in external threats but within himself. The fragment's power whispered seductively in the recesses of his mind, promising untold strength. But at what price? Only time would tell whether he could master it, or fall victim to its insatiable hunger. As the group regrouped amidst the wreckage, Eric found himself grappling with questions that stretched far beyond the immediate dangers they faced. Clutching the core fragment tightly, he felt its warmth seep into his very bones, a constant reminder of the immense responsibility now resting on his shoulders. The weight of it was palpable, pressing down on him like an invisible mantle. Yet, strangely, it also filled him with a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced since the days of his youth, when dreams of heroism and adventure still danced in his mind. Lysara approached him, her movements deliberate yet gentle. Kneeling beside him, she placed a hand over his, which cradled the glowing orb. "You've taken the first step, Eric," she said softly, her voice carrying both reassurance and warning. "But the road ahead will test you in ways you cannot imagine. The fragment will guide you, empower you, but it will also tempt you. Resist its darker whispers, for they lead only to ruin." Eric met her gaze, seeing the sincerity in her luminous eyes. He nodded slowly, though doubt lingered in his expression. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," he admitted, his voice low. "Hell, I'm not even sure I believe half of what's happening. One minute I'm just another grunt trying to survive, and the next, I'm some cosmic chosen one? It doesn't make sense." "It rarely does," Lysara replied with a faint smile. "Destiny has a way of choosing unlikely vessels. Trust me, I've seen it happen before. But trust yourself, Eric. You have more strength within you than you realize." Her words stirred something deep inside him, a flicker of resolve that pushed aside the uncertainty, if only momentarily. Still, the enormity of the task ahead loomed large. He glanced around at the others, Doran, Kira, and the rest of his squad, all of whom wore expressions ranging from awe to thinly veiled fear. They had followed him this far, trusting in his leadership, but how long would that trust hold if things spiraled out of control? The silence was broken by Doran clearing his throat loudly. "All right, enough with the philosophical pep talk," he grumbled, crossing his arms. "Let's get practical here. What's the plan, boss? We've got a shiny rock, a pissed-off alien princess, and a bunch of bad guys probably plotting revenge. Where do we go from here? Lysara rose gracefully to her feet, brushing off imaginary dust from her attire. First, we secure safe passage off this moon. The explosion likely attracted unwanted attention, and staying here any longer is a risk we cannot afford. Kira chimed in, adjusting the strap of her rifle. Agreed. But what about the ship? Last I checked, the Elysium Dawn wasn't exactly equipped for interstellar escape pods. We'll need reinforcements, or at least a decent repair crew, if we're going anywhere. Eric frowned, considering their options. We'll head back to the crash site and assess the damage. If the ship's beyond repair, we'll send out a distress signal. Someone's bound to pick it up eventually. Lysara shook her head firmly. No. Sending a signal risks drawing more enemies. We must rely on stealth for now. Fortunately, I know of a safe haven nearby, a hidden colony established by refugees from Zitharus. They can provide shelter and resources while we determine our next move. Sounds like a plan, Doran muttered, though his tone suggested skepticism. Assuming these refugees aren't secretly working for whoever sent those Tinkin soldiers after us. They aren't, Lysara assured him, her voice firm. The colony is loyal to my family. They fled Zitharus centuries ago to escape persecution, seeking refuge among the stars. Their existence has been kept secret even from my enemies. Eric sighed, rubbing his temples. Okay, fine. Let's assume this colony exists and isn't crawling with hostiles. How do we get there without getting blown to bits along the way? We travel under cover of night, Lysara explained. The terrain may be treacherous, but it offers natural concealment. With careful navigation, we can avoid detection. Thus, the group set off once more, navigating the jagged landscape under the dim glow of the twin moons. Progress was slow and arduous, hindered by uneven ground and the ever-present threat of ambush. Yet, despite the challenges, a strange camaraderie began to form among them. Conversation sparked unexpectedly, laughter mingling with the sounds of crunching gravel and distant winds. Even Doran, typically stoic and gruff, cracked a rare joke about Kira's aim being so good it scared the rocks into submission. Midway through their trek, they encountered a narrow ravine, its depths cloaked in shadow. As they carefully crossed a precarious natural bridge formed by fallen debris, Eric paused, peering into the abyss below. Something about the darkness unsettled him, not because it hid potential threats, but because it mirrored the void he sometimes felt within himself. The fragment pulsed gently in response, as if sensing his unease. "You're quiet," Lysara noted, joining him at the edge. "What troubles you?" He hesitated, then shrugged. "Just thinking about how much has changed in the span of a day. Yesterday, I was just another cog in the machine. Today, I'm whatever this is. It's hard to wrap my head around." She studied him thoughtfully. "Change is rarely easy, especially when thrust upon us unexpectedly. But remember this, you are not alone. Whether by choice or circumstance, we are bound together now. Lean on us when the burden becomes too heavy." Her words struck a chord, easing the tension coiled in his chest. For the first time in what felt like ages, Eric allowed himself a small smile. "Thanks. I'll try to keep that in mind." As dawn approached, the outline of the hidden colony emerged from the horizon, a sprawling settlement nestled within a valley, camouflaged by dense foliage and cleverly designed architecture. Lights flickered faintly in the distance, signaling life and safety. Hope surged within the group, bolstering their weary spirits. But as they neared the gates, a chilling realization dawned on Eric. This refuge, while promising sanctuary, also represented a threshold into unknown territory. The decisions they made here would shape not only their immediate future but the fate of worlds entangled in the legacy of the Etherean. And somewhere, lurking in the shadows of the cosmos, forces far greater than themselves awaited, watching, and preparing to strike. The gates of the hidden colony creaked open with a groan, revealing a bustling community that seemed to defy its secretive nature. Refugees from Zitharus moved about their daily lives, tending to crops bathed in artificial sunlight, trading goods at makeshift stalls, and children laughing as they played among the structures carved seamlessly into the surrounding cliffs. The sight was both humbling and awe-inspiring, a testament to resilience and unity in the face of adversity. Lysara stepped forward confidently, raising her hand in a gesture of peace. A group of elders emerged from the crowd, their faces weathered but kind. They recognized her immediately, bowing deeply in reverence. "Princess Lysara," one of them said, his voice trembling with emotion. "We thought you lost to the stars." "I was searching for something vital," she replied, glancing briefly at Eric. "And I have found it, not just the fragment, but allies who share our cause." She gestured toward the weary yet determined humans standing behind her. "These brave warriors have risked everything to aid me. We seek refuge here while we plan our next steps." The elder nodded solemnly. "You are always welcome among your people, my lady. Come, rest and recover. Tomorrow, we will discuss how best to support your mission." As the group settled into the colony's hospitality, Eric found himself marveling at the blend of cultures before him. The Zytherians were unlike any alien species he'd encountered, graceful yet grounded, proud yet compassionate. Their technology, though ancient, hummed with quiet efficiency, blending seamlessly with the natural environment. It was a world apart from the chaos of war and conquest he'd grown accustomed to. That evening, under the soft glow of bioluminescent lanterns strung between buildings, the colony hosted a feast in honor of their visitors. Tables groaned under the weight of exotic dishes, shimmering fruits that tasted like sunlight, savory stews infused with spices unknown to Earth, and sweet pastries that melted on the tongue. Laughter filled the air as stories were exchanged, bonds strengthened over shared meals and mutual respect. Eric sat beside Lysara, feeling an unfamiliar warmth spread through him, not just from the food or drink, but from the camaraderie surrounding them. For the first time in years, he felt truly alive, part of something greater than himself. He caught glimpses of Doran attempting, and failing, to charm a Zytherian woman with tales of his battlefield exploits, while Kira giggled uncontrollably at his exaggerated gestures. Even the usually stoic squad members relaxed, allowing themselves moments of genuine joy. "You seem content," Lysara observed, her golden hair catching the light as she turned to face him. There was a softness in her expression, a vulnerability that made her all the more radiant. "I am," Eric admitted, leaning back in his chair. "It's strange. I've spent so much of my life running from one fight to the next, never stopping to think about what comes after. But this feels like home." Her smile widened, and she reached out to touch his hand lightly. "Perhaps destiny brought you here not just to carry the fragment, but to find peace. You deserve that, Eric." He chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Peace? With everything going on? I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. But maybe I can learn." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden commotion near the edge of the settlement. Alarms blared, and shouts echoed through the night as figures clad in dark armor descended upon the colony. The attackers had found them. Chaos erupted as the colonists scrambled to defend their home. Elders ushered children to safety, while others armed themselves with whatever tools they could find. The human squad sprang into action alongside the Zytherians, forming a united front against the invaders. Energy blasts lit up the darkness, casting eerie shadows across the battlefield. Eric stood at the center of it all, clutching the core fragment tightly. Its power surged within him, responding to the urgency of the moment. He closed his eyes, focusing on the connection he'd begun to forge with it. Images flashed before him once more, stars aligning, galaxies swirling, but this time he wasn't overwhelmed. Instead, he embraced the fragment's energy, channeling it outward in controlled bursts that repelled the attackers without causing harm. "Enough!" Lysara's voice rang out above the din, commanding attention. She raised her hands, summoning a barrier of shimmering light that encased the colony, shielding it from further assault. The armored figures hesitated, their leader stepping forward cautiously. "This is your final warning," Lysara declared, her tone unwavering. "Leave now, or face the full might of the Etherian. You cannot win this fight." For a tense moment, silence reigned. Then, with a growl of frustration, the leader signaled retreat. One by one, the attackers vanished into the night, leaving behind only scorched earth and lingering tension. As the barrier dissipated, cheers erupted from the colonists and soldiers alike. Exhaustion mingled with relief as everyone embraced one another, celebrating their hard-fought victory. Eric slumped to the ground, drained but triumphant, the fragment glowing faintly in his lap. Lysara knelt beside him, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "You did well," she whispered, pride shining in her eyes. "You harnessed the fragment's power without letting it consume you. That takes incredible strength." "I couldn't have done it without you," he replied, meeting her gaze. "Or them." He gestured toward the others, who were now dancing around a bonfire someone had ignited in celebration. "This isn't just my journey anymore. It's ours." Over the following days, plans were made to ensure the colony's continued safety and to prepare for the larger battles ahead. Lysara revealed that the fragment within Eric was only one piece of a greater puzzle. Reuniting all the fragments would restore balance to Zitherus and potentially bring peace to countless worlds caught in the crossfire of greed and ambition. Yet, amidst the strategizing and preparations, there were quieter moments too. Eric and Lysara walked together beneath the twin moons, sharing stories of their respective homes and dreams for the future. She spoke of Zitherus as it once was, a paradise of harmony and innovation, and her hope to rebuild it anew. He told her of Earth, flawed and scarred but resilient, and his longing to return someday to show her its beauty. In those moments, surrounded by stars and possibility, Eric realized he no longer feared the unknown. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew he wouldn't face them alone. Together, they would navigate the complexities of destiny, forging a path illuminated by courage, love, and the unyielding belief that even in the vastness of the universe, hope could shine brightest when shared. And so, under the watchful eyes of constellations old and new, Eric Thorne, the human warrior thrust into cosmic significance, and Lysara, the alien princess burdened by royal duty, embarked on a journey that transcended borders and species. Bound by trust, purpose, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow, they stepped boldly into the stars, ready to shape the fate of worlds, and perhaps, in doing so, discover the true meaning of belonging.